next to last episode of the Book of Boba Fett has debuted, and there's a lot in there to talk about. So let's get started. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your thoughts on the latest episode of the Book of Boba Fett, as well as the show in general. This is a spoiler review, so feel free to spoil away down below in the comment section. No need for a spoiler warning. I'm going to kick things off talking about my general thoughts about the episode and the season as a whole, and then I'll talk about specific plot points later on, and I'll have little chapter markers down below so you can skip ahead to the specific topics you want to hear, or characters you want to hear my thoughts on, and let's get started. And right off the bat, this episode stirred up so many different emotions inside of me and thoughts inside of my head. Of course, it was great to see all these characters again. Of course, it was amazing to see Luke actually training someone. I loved that we're getting Cobb Vanth working back into the plot line. And then on the flip side, it just affirmed every kind of issue I've had with this show since the very beginning, which is to say that it's absolutely bizarre. It's a show that doesn't seem to know what it is, but it kind of knows how to give the fans what they want at just the right moment. But the show itself has such a paper-thin plot line about Boba trying to establish his presence and power on Tatooine, but the show's not very interested in telling that story. So then we're doing this flashbacks, and then we spent 2 episodes now doing Mandalorian Season 3 prep, and the actual main finale we're building towards is kind of like an afterthought. It's like, oh yeah, there's villains out there that we need to stop, or antagonists that we need to overcome, but the show's not particularly interested in exploring them, telling us who they are. It was just bizarre. Adding to that, the first 2 episodes of the season spend a bunch of time with Boba Fett establishing a relationship with a group of Tusken Raiders who potentially could be his muscle that he needs for the final battle. It then kills them off. The last 2 episodes have spent all this time recruiting new people for the final battle that are less connected to the story than the Tusken Raiders were. Have less personal connection to Boba Fett than the Tusken Raiders. I mean, it's just bizarre. Like, I don't understand the thought process they had when they constructed the season, decided where to put things, the direction to take things. It's like they had a bunch of different things they wanted to do, and instead of going like, now let's pick a focus, or we want to tackle all of these things, so we need to have 13 episodes. Instead of either expanding the season or tightening the focus, it just went, I guess we'll kind of do all of them. It's bizarre. It's so strange if you just step back and look at this show and stop and think about how they're handling it, that it's called the Book of Boba Fett, that, I mean, 2 full episodes entirely focused on other characters. I mean, Boba Fett barely appeared in this week's episode and didn't appear in last week's episode. That's strange. Like, we're just around the corner from the finale. It's all about this final battle, and it didn't establish how these Pikes are actually an imposing threat that with tension until the end of this episode, involving a side character from The Mandalorian that we only saw in 1 episode. And they do kind of this old Western draw thing, and then to even establish the Pikes as a threat, they pull a guy from the Clone Wars. And so the actual villains of the season are just kind of like this idea out there of people that want to run spice. And then we have all these red herrings about the mayor and the Hutts. The actual threat are kind of like out there. We don't really know who they are, but we put a face to their muscle, and it's so weird. And did I love so many things about this episode? Did I have a ton of fun with them? Yeah. In a way that made me excited for Mandalorian Season 3. But I look at this as I don't know what they thought they were making, what it was supposed to be like, but it's it's strange. And as much as like I got on Twitter to see the reaction to the episode, and there's a bunch of people like losing their mind, just going bananas over it for the obvious reasons. There's a bunch of stuff in here that no matter what era of Star Wars fan you are, there's something that should make you go, oh, it's that thing. It's that guy. And then at the same time, there's a bunch of other people being like, all this was going, hey, it's that guy. Hey, it's her. Hey, look, it's him. Isn't he still cute? And he jumped up and down. It's that. It's just pointing at things that we remember to get us excited about the show because we don't care about the actual plot. Like, this is all, it's like a 2-episode detour just to recruit someone we already knew that they could have, done with one scene. They do this whole detour setting stuff up for Mando Season 3. Which that you can get away with that, and that we're like high-fiving each other on the internet like, yeah, that's awesome, look what we got to see, is a bad sign if we care that little about the actual plot of the show. So, man, I don't understand. I really don't understand where they were going with all this, why they did it the way they did, that it's only 7 episodes, and 2 of the episodes are Mandalorian episodes. What on earth is going on here? So, I don't know if they just didn't trust the characters interesting enough or what. But I can't think of another TV show that's so uninterested in its own lead character, or at least so uninterested in telling the lead character's present storyline. Because they seem interested in the flashbacks. They seem interested in his friends. They don't seem interested in his actual current character arc or current story that he's involved in. I don't get it. I mean, I really don't get it. So anyway, it's a little bit of a rant because I've just got all this energy of like, man, that was so cool. But also, what? Anyway, let's dive into the specifics of the episode. So the episode kicks off and we get Cobb Vanth. And this is one of the things I said last week, that if we're recruiting people, how do you not recruit Cobb? He's already on the planet. He had the armor. This seems like a pretty obvious person that you would go and recruit. And so you get kind of this little cold open with him as the marshal in the area and sees these spice traders. And it does something really important. It establishes him as this very quick gun in the episode. Like we saw his skill set before, but it establishes right here for this show, for this episode, he's really good. Takes 3 guys out, but also immediately when you see him without his armor and he's just kind of walking around with the shirt on, he also seems very vulnerable. And immediately feels that way. You have this show with all these big hulking Wookiees and people in Beskar armor, and then you see him, he's got a shirt on. Like, you feels vulnerable right from the get-go. But I love seeing him. And we'll talk more about where the episode ends with this character, but just a real nice return to this guy that hopefully will have more to do. And then from there, we head on over to watch what's going on with Luke and Grogu training. And it's kind of running several things parallel with Mando arriving, and he sees R2-D2, and R2-D2 takes him, and instead of taking him directly to Luke and Grogu, takes it to Ahsoka Tano, and they kind of have some conversations. And so it's just a little bit of nice catch-up, of course, and she's able to be the person to kind of like, okay, man, you have to understand, you're a distraction for what he's trying to do. Your existence to him is the opposite of what we're trying to do with him. And so it's just, you kind of see that conflict being established there as Mando can't stay away from Grogu because he's so attached to him. And then Grogu on his Jedi journey isn't supposed to have those types of attachments. And so just nice little discussion about the differences between their worldviews, and even Ahsoka and Luke's differences and their perspective on things. Has nice little touches in there. And then a big chunk of the episode, we legitimately get Luke training Grogu. And I don't know if the tech just got better or they got more confident with it or if it was just a matter of lighting, but the de-aging looks really good. And there's a lot more of it, and he does a lot more. Whereas last year, it was felt a little bit funky with what they did, and it was very kind of motionless. They didn't move his head much. There wasn't a whole lot to it when you actually could see his face. Whereas here, I mean, he's just a character in the episode. He's not just a cameo. He's like a character in the episode with this whole Grogu training subplot, and it's such a fascinating reversal because obviously the person that trained Luke was Yoda, and now Baby Yoda is being trained by Luke. And so you have all these kind of parallel moments, but it's the other way around. That of the ways to do this, it's fun to get to see that reversal. And then you have little things kind of like whenever we first saw Yoda flippy lightsaber fighting, it was a strange sight because we'd only seen little Yoda with a cane walking around, and all of a sudden we seem to have flippy fighting style. And so then here you have Luke training Grogu, trying to teach him how to do the jumpy, force jumping with his natural abilities, which anything with Grogu is adorable, but add to that with Jedi training, hopping, all the stuff that made us fall in love with him during Mando season 1 and 2, you get more of it here. But it's with Luke. And there's just something about that that's special. That Luke, not just young Luke in his prime, still optimistic Luke, training someone. That next step right after Return of the Jedi. That the promise of what could be, and even what's been teased through the sequel trilogy, and we're getting to see it. More of that version of Luke that some of us, that's the Luke that we want, not deconstructed, cynical Luke. We get more of the classic Luke in his prime. That's, of course, amazing. So we have this one little sequence where during the training where Luke is trying to help Grogu remember, and he's trying to talk about his people and does he remember them, and then we see Grogu's moment during Order 66, and I didn't pause and zoom in to see. I don't know if there were any Easter eggs in there with the people that he's. I didn't pick up on that exactly, but like a moment that was just really neat to see his perspective on Order 66. And so the episode kind of does some back and forth as Ahsoka takes Mando to get a bird's eye view and look over and check out their training and everything like that. And she's like, well, he can't see you, but you can see him. And is this really about him or is it about you? And just nice little moments to kind of help Mando grow and understand those relationships. And I think even these moments, I think largely even highlight so much of what the problem was with the Book of Boba Fett is that Boba Fett isn't, he's a cool character when he's got the helmet on. Mysterious, who's underneath there, bounty hunter, that's everybody knows who he is. And he has a jetpack. But when you put him in a show where, he likes Fennec because that's the person that helps him get stuff done. But the people he established a rapport with, they killed off in the 3rd episode. And so he doesn't have personal relationships in an interesting way. They're not comrades, they're colleagues. It's comrades. Yeah, there's communists, but colleagues that he works with, that he helps, that he recruits for his team, that he does favors for, and they do favors for him. But he doesn't have connections to them. And we get a subtle arc in the flashbacks, but in the present, it's who he is at the beginning is who he is in episode 6, where we're at. And so you just don't see that growth, attachment, stuff that makes him relatable in an interesting way. And the helmet's off, so the cool factor's gone. In which case, he's just not a character that is all that interesting to follow around anymore. And then when you have Mando as this person that we go back and forth between, they reintroduce him in this season as this cold-blooded bounty hunter that just tears guys up, cuts a guy's head off, and he's totally chill about it. And then it's contrasted with his fondness for a child. That's interesting. That the contrast there in Mando, that as this person also has so dedicated to a way of life. That way of life is one of the reasons that he took Grogu in the way that he did, and that also led him to be so attached to Grogu that he violated the rules of this way of life that he'd committed to. That's interesting. And they don't have like comparable any of that with Boba Fett. And it makes the show difficult to get really invested in the way that you need to with a lead character that you want to spend time with. The idea that there's 7 episodes and they're able to take this 2-episode detour where he's barely in it, and the internet is loving it, going crazy because we get to see everyone else. Man, that does not reflect well on how they established this story and this lead character, unfortunately. Anyway, so I don't remember all the specific things that kind of happening here, but they pass along. He passes along the little package and of what he made for the armor that he made for Grogu, that Ahsoka then takes to Luke to pass along, and once he gets just some nice little moments. You stop and think about. If you watch the Clone Wars, you spend a lot of time with Ahsoka Tano. Of course, we spend a lot of time with Luke. And this is our first time we see them interacting. And these look like that. You have, how to phrase this? My dad died when I was 20. And if you've lost a parent at far too young of an age, you have this inner desire to always know more little nuggets about your parent. Because if your parent dies when you're young, you didn't really know them when you were fully formed as a person to ask them all the questions that would be interesting. There's always this desire to know more, understand them more, and have those little insights. So who are the people that potentially could be most interesting for Luke to spend time with? Would be the people that knew his father, because his father's the most interesting person in the galaxy. Obi-Wan's gone, and so then who next? Her dad's Padawan. And so a little line of dialogue like,
so much like your father,
means so much. It's so profound. And especially if there's a certain relatability to this concept of a son without a father. You hear that, and you just can fill in the blanks of how many more interactions maybe they did have about that. Some really cool stuff. Going back to my thoughts on this episode this season, that it's just so peculiar. Because do I love these moments, these scenes of dialogue, the training, the interactions with Ahsoka and Mando, and I love all that. And at the same time, there's deep sense of like, does it belong here? Why is it here? Why are we taking this detour? I just don't get it. Like, I get why you want to tell this story and have these moments, but it doesn't fit here. As for people like, the critics of this episode I've seen on Twitter calling it like just fan service, and there's a lot of truth to that, but it doesn't mean it's not a good, interesting interaction. It's not like it doesn't fit with the Mando character. It just doesn't fit with this show. Mando goes off on his adventure, and so we finally get to Tatooine. Boba Fett gets his 30 seconds on screen. It's like, big fight's coming. They've got a lot of soldiers. We need more foot soldiers. And Mando goes, I know a guy. And then Boba Fett's out of the episode again, and we're off. And so Mando goes to try and recruit Cobb and realize there's a deputy in town, and they go into the bar to have their drink. And Cobb wants to help his friend, but he's also like, we're square. Like, I don't owe you anything. He's like, I know. Can you do me a favor? Like, this doesn't seem like a great situation. And then everyone in the bartender's like, this isn't our fight. We don't want in. We don't want any part of it. This is Freetown. Making this very clear idea that this is Freetown. And bartender guy, deputy guy, they don't know what Cobb knows. They didn't have the interaction that he had in the opening scene. He has more information than them, being like, I can see where this is headed. This could be like, okay, I had a little deal. I was able to protect my little town. But this guy that I know is a great fighter, he's saying something bad's coming, that it's going to get worse. Okay. So he wants to get the town together, have a conversation about this. Mando takes off. And then, great, classic Western shot. The person walking silhouette towards him. Cobb knows this is no good, whatever this is. Tells everyone to go inside. And then characters walking up, and rumors, speculation, who could show up, who would make sense, who would be a good, interesting adversary for Boba Fett. Dave Filoni's potentially writing, directing the episode. Who potentially might show up that would fit in with that? And we have Cad Bane show up as the muscle for these spice traders. And is one of those ones where, like, as the audience kind of have this, probably have an knowledge that this guy's a threat. But even if you don't know who this character is, the moment itself makes it clear, oh, this isn't good, whoever this guy is. Cobb knows it, that this is bad, bad, bad. And Cobb's like, we're not going to back down. And you get a classic Western duel, cutting back and forth, showing each of them. So well done. And the sort of stuff that is very Mandalorian, which is the Mandalorian was Star Wars Western, and Book of Boba Fett is less that. And so it's a scene that, once again, fit really well into Mando. Doesn't feel out of place in Book of Boba Fett, but very much in line with what the other show was. And staring each other down, and Cad even says,
"You should have never given up your armor."
And then the draw happens. Cobb gets shot in the chest, and then this dude just mows down into the deputy with a ton of blasts. And, like, a stab, think this place is dangerous. And you see all the people in the city like, oh no, what just happened? And I don't think Cobb is dead. He only got shot once, and they show everyone running around him. One shot to the chest versus 5 shots to the chest. You can survive one shot. And if you're trying to... I don't know why you would have Timothy Olyphant bring him and kill him off. I don't know why you would do that. There's too much more fun you could do with him, especially if you're about to have a big final battle. What do? You have this great gunslinger that you wound him, that gives him the motivation to say, like, I'm going to battle. I don't care if you guys do or not. But you've also set their value set, which is we're the free people. And that guy just said we're not free anymore. We work for him, or they're going to kill us. We have to fight for our freedom. This is our fight. So you have a situation that makes sense for them to join in. And in Cobb's situation, he would have a personal investment in that fight. So I want to see that. So I don't think he's dead. I think he's coming back. And if he is dead, it's really disappointing. Because character deaths mean so much more when you see the reaction to the people that actually care about them. So if you're going to have Cobb die, and you just had Mando leave, you took away the one person that could give the emotional weight to that moment where you see, like, Mando, like, reflecting on this person that he had an adventure with dying, and I don't know why you would do that. So I don't think he's dead. I really hope he's not dead as well. I want more of him, and I want to see rematches and the whole city uniting, hacking behind him to see what's going to happen with all that. But then our episode closes out with the choice, where Luke sits him down. He's like, Grogu, I got a gift for you. Pulls out cute little baby Mando armor, Beskar armor for him. Mando's man, I've got this, and then I've also got Yoda's lightsaber. And 2 gifts, your choice. I'm not trying to pressure you, man, but what we do, you have to be all in. And you can't be half Mando's buddy and half Jedi. You have to pick one. And here's your moment. Cool armor. Are you foundling Mandalorian way of life? This is the way? Or is the Force with you? Which one is it? You got to pick. And then our episode ends. And just like a nice little dilemma to put on him. So anyway, I already ran it at the beginning. I don't need to summarize it, but so many moments in there that I loved. All the Cobb stuff, I love that. I just give him a show. I'd be all for it. All the Luke training someone, awesome. learning more about something awesome. What on earth is this show, though, that we could take such a long break from our lead character in the main plot, do this gigantic rabbit trail, and that's what we're amped about. That is not a good sign. So, thoroughly enjoyed the episode as Star Wars, maybe not so much as Book of Boba Fett. Let me know what you thought down below in the comment section about the episode, about the show, about the cameos, all that fun stuff, and keep talking movies and TV too much.